Good day, Suidlanders. How are you? We trust that you are well. I am coming to you from just about as far away as one could be, the diametric end of the earth, on the same time zone as South Africa, but at the White Sea. I've traveled from Archangelsk with those people there. That's Raman, who you saw in a previous video. I hope it's one of the videos that I was able to upload to Arnold and his wife Oksana. I don't know, she's wandered off somewhere. And his father-in-law, the tall gentleman, is Raman's father-in-law, Yuri Vladimirovich. And they have brought me up to the White Sea. I'm going to ring my parents in a short while. They live in St. Francis Bay, so they are at the opposite end of the world, just about, as far as you can be from over here. This really feels like a great privilege. And I mentioned, I believe I did mention in another video that I was chatting to somebody, a very able man, one of the privileged connections that we've made in Russia, about the significance, the symbolism of being up north, so far north, having come from so far south. And I said, you know, I said to him, it's symbolic and it's significant. And he looked at me dead in the eyes and he said, no, it's very symbolic, very significant. So that was a nice touch on his part to be able to sense the thing that I sensed. Open. I don't know how well the camera would pick up the little fishing boats, but about, I don't know, a kilometer away from us, there's a long line of fishing boats. There's an event stage, what looks like an event stage in the distance over there. We're at the town of Severodvinsk. Severodvinsk. Severo is north. We're not far from the nuclear submarine pens. I'm told that I'll have to be very careful about filming because, as one man told me, he said, I don't know if this is a true story. He said, but this is what we were told. A woman who works at a university told him and his wife that two of their Chinese students had been kicked out of Russia for filming in public, in a very public place where cars travel, submarines that could be seen in the distance. He said, it doesn't sound like a true story, but that woman swears that those two Chinese students were at the university and then they weren't at the university anymore, and the explanation was that they'd been arrested on suspicion of spying and deported and declared persona or personae non grata. There comes Oksana. So that's the team of us, the 4 of us who've driven up here from Arkhangelsk. It's about an hour and a quarter's drive, I would say, from not so much from Arkhangelsk as from where I'm staying, Solombala on the island, at the Meridian Hotel, Soviet hotel, stuck in Soviet times. It's not a bad place, and the people are very friendly and helpful, but I was describing to Raman this morning some of the odd features, you know. For instance, my room doesn't have a refrigerator or a microwave or even a kettle. And they began renovations on the hotel some time ago, I don't know when, and then they abandoned the renovations, and as a result the balcony to my room is all smashed up. They obviously had some ideas of tiling it or something, so they chipped away at the balcony, chipped away at the step between the room and the balcony. There are all these chunks of stuff missing, and the rest is bare concrete. In a way, it's awful, but it's only 1,800 rubles a night, which is, I suppose, about 27 odd dollars. And the people are very pleasant, very nice people. The ladies at reception and the cleaning ladies and so on. So I'm happy to be there. Anyway, it's a little bit of a longer drive from there to here, but it's probably, once you leave Arkhangelsk, 40 odd minutes or so. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Speak to you soon. Hey guys, we have a very serious matter to discuss. Before we do, I am sorry for the audio quality of the videos. You've all heard the story, but for those who haven't, when you come to Russia, you may get for your phone a SIM card valid for 14 days with just 12 gigabytes of data on it. Was it 12? I forget. Something like that, very limited. Mine, incidentally, I'm digressing now, was cut off after 12 days and 12 hours. I didn't even get the full 14. Then what you may do is get a Russian phone and SIM card combo, and it's basically limitless. As with anywhere else in the world, you choose your contract and off you go. And that can be kind of like topped up and renewed. And I got one of those phones. I'm filming with it now. However, when I started doing these walk and talks and the audio quality wasn't good enough, I tried, in fact, I already had the microphones. I bought them in South Africa for my phone. Then, of course, my phone cut off, can't work. Tried to fit the microphones, wrong port size, fit them to this phone. And I went to the Megaphone dealership, and they said to me that the importers of these phones, Clearview, that's the name of these phones. This is a Clearview C75. Cost me about 14,000, I beg your pardon, 4,000 Rand. In dollars, 200 and something. The importers no longer import the microphones for these phones. Can you believe it? So I'm going to try not to turn my head from the phone, talk directly into it. A few days ago, the Ukrainians, ostensibly the Ukrainians, struck Russia's strategic bomber fleet, damaging or destroying somewhere between 4 and 41. Those are the numbers that people are debating and disputing. I'm inclined to believe that 41 or thereabouts, maybe a few less, but thereabouts, is in fact correct. Although the Ukrainians have proved over time, to those of us who followed this conflict very closely, economical with the truth over the past 2.5 years, certainly when compared to the Russians, regardless of whose side you take, the simple, demonstrable fact is that the Russian Ministry of Defense and related entities have been far more honest and truthful about the facts and figures of the special military operation than the Ukrainians have. But on this instance, the Ukrainians seem to be telling the truth, and the Russians are saying nothing. More and more evidence is coming out that at least 7 Tu-95, Tupolev 95 Bear strategic bombers were very severely damaged or completely destroyed. Now, as you know, about 1.5 years ago, Russia amended its nuclear policy, its nuclear war policy. To include that if there should be any attack on its strategic forces by any country using any means, so not necessarily nuclear, that is supported by a country that has nuclear weapons, the Russians will be entitled to deem that a nuclear attack. I'm using words from memory, and I hope that I'm not being less than truthful in my choice of words, but it's there or thereabouts. So this was a very, very, very serious attack. And yesterday, Donald Trump, notwithstanding time zones, yesterday, Donald Trump rang Vladimir Putin to say, "Nobody told me." What he was referring to is the fact, and it is a fact, that such attacks cannot be carried out by the Ukrainians without NATO involvement. Not help, not support, actual direct participation, physical participation, because Ukraine lacks the ability in terms of satellite reconnaissance and targeting and operational codes for certain weapons to attack Russian soil. They just cannot do it. And that ability cannot be transferred. In other words, just imagine if you were the co-signer on a bank account, in a partnership, a business partnership. Somebody might say, well, you could give your business partner your secret codes and access to your computer to do, to approve their own transfer of money by EFT. But it would never happen. Does never happen. It simply isn't the case. that NATO countries are giving Ukraine their secret codes to operationalize certain weapons, or free and full access to do whatever they like with the satellite reconnaissance and target acquisition and so on. It's out of the question. Just as you wouldn't give the code, the secret password, to your business partner because it could be abused in the future. So Donald Trump was ringing to say, hey, don't be angry with me. Nobody told me that we were going to do this. In other words, the Russians know, and the Americans know that the Russians know, that they were involved in those attacks upon Russia's strategic nuclear bomber force. And apparently, Vladimir Putin told Donald Trump emphatically, and Donald Trump said as much in a Truth Social post, that, excuse me while I hiccup, that he's going to have to respond, that this cannot go unanswered, that there is going to be retaliation. He was emphatic about it, apparently. Dobry. And that leaves us with a very interesting question, which is the rub of this video. Namely, is the White House a circus in which strategic operational decisions of the greatest import in the history of mankind are being taken without the knowledge of the president? Or is the president of the United States taking Vladimir Putin for a fool, an absolute fool, by lying to his face, as it were, over the telephone line? Because either he knew about it and approved it, presumably if he knew about it, if he was informed, if permission was sought, or he's running a circus. And running a circus might be a misleading expression. There is a circus and he's not running it. It's a very, very serious matter as far as mankind is concerned, as far as these end times are concerned, as far as many events in the world, including in South Africa, may be concerned. It is the central question of the moment. In NATO's ongoing antagonism of Russia, its full participation in the Ukraine conflict, no matter whose side you take, we know that NATO is fully participant. And I've scarcely touched on the levels of involvement of NATO, of which we know well. Personnel on the ground, command and control centers, the operational headquarters in Wiesbaden, Germany, from which the entire conflict is being run. The entire conflict. And the Russians know it. I lost my train of thought, but as far as this ongoing antagonism is concerned, this ongoing participation, were Russia's nuclear bombers attacked by Ukraine and NATO, with the president's knowledge or without? Is he... By the way, this happened on the same day that Donald Trump directed that an investigation, a formal investigation, be held. An investigation into Joe Biden's auto pen and who was running the White House. As far as I can recall, Suidlanders was by a long way the first organization of any substance in the world to say very boldly, to declare that it's now apparent that Joe Biden has some sort of dementia. I believe we first mentioned it in September of 2020, 2 months prior to the 2020 elections. So as Joe Biden was losing his marbles, somebody else was running the show. Is something similar happening now in the USA? Not that Donald Trump is losing his marbles, but is it the case that while the old man worries about other things, those around him are antagonizing towards nuclear war? Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe, and if you wish to donate, it would be very helpful. Thank you. Bye-bye.